On July 18, 2024, a U.S. Navy destroyer sank a ship it couldn't see. The target was 50 miles out, beyond the horizon, off the radar, invisible to every man on deck. The destroyer fired anyway. The missile ran out over open water, searched the ocean on its own, found the hull, and put it under. A live-fire demonstration off Kauai. The target, a decommissioned ship. But that's exactly the point. The crew that pulled the trigger never saw what they killed, and they didn't need to. That's what naval combat actually is now. Not ship against ship, kill chain against kill chain. Aircraft, satellites, submarines, and warships feeding one shared picture of the ocean, each side racing to find the other and kill it first. The hull on the horizon was never the real threat. The network behind it is. So the question isn't whether you can hide from the ship shooting at you. It's whether you can hide from everything feeding it your position. Here's how the U.S. Navy sinks a warship it can't see. It starts with the oldest problem in naval warfare. The Earth is round, and radar travels in a straight line. That sounds like nothing. It decides everything. A destroyer's radar can pick up a fighter jet flying at 35,000 feet from about 250 miles away. But drop that target down to the surface, a low ship, a sea-skimming missile, and the same radar might not catch it until it's 40 miles out or closer. The curve of the planet simply hides it, and a destroyer carrying $1 billion of sensors can be stone blind to another warship sitting just over the edge of the world. For most of naval history, that left one option: get closer. If you wanted to hit something, you had to sail into range to see it first. The eyes and the gun were bolted to the same hull, which meant the act of finding the enemy was also the act of showing him exactly where you were. Modern naval warfare cuts that wire. The ship that finds the target and the ship that kills it no longer have to be the same ship. They don't even have to be near each other. One platform finds, another fixes the position, another keeps the track alive, another fires, another steers the missile in, another confirms the wreck. Spread the job across that chain, and the enemy's whole world gets worse. Kill your shooter, and it doesn't matter, because your shooter never saw him. Hide from your shooter, and it doesn't matter, because something else already has him. Stay over the horizon, the one move that used to mean safe, and it doesn't matter either, because he stopped hiding from a single ship the moment the shooting started. Now he's hiding from the entire fleet's picture of the ocean, and you cannot disappear from a picture that a dozen different sensors are drawing at once. But here's the catch nobody puts in the movies. A contact on a screen is not a target, not even close. On screen, naval combat is instant. A blip turns red, somebody yells fire, the missile leaves the rail. Real combat is slower and uglier, and the reason comes down to math. A long-range anti-ship missile costs a fortune, and a destroyer only carries so many. You can't spend one on a guess. You can't fling it into a lane of neutral shipping because a single radar coughed up a strange return. And you can't let the other side bait you into killing a decoy while the real warship slides past in the noise. So before anyone shoots, that blip has to earn it. It has to become a track, a moving thing the whole fleet trusts. Then it has to be named. Warship or tanker, frigate or fishing boat, a genuine combatant, or some neutral freighter that wandered into the wrong square of ocean on the worst day of its life. That answer almost never comes from one clean clue. It comes from behavior stacked up. Warships move like warships. They hold formation a certain way. They radiate a certain way. They launch helicopters, swing wide around threat rings, and chatter on military networks in patterns a tanker never will. So the fleet doesn't hunt for one smoking gun, it hunts for the pattern. One sensor catches a radar emission, another sees a surface contact in the same water, a third notices the formation shift, a fourth tracks an aircraft flying a leg that only makes sense if it belongs to that ship. Signals intelligence says a command net just lit up. No single piece is proof. Stack them, and the track hardens. The maybe becomes a firing solution. And this is the part that actually decides the fight, because classification isn't paperwork, it's survival, and it cuts both ways. Misjudge the target, and you waste an irreplaceable missile. Wait too long to be sure, and the enemy shoots first. Light up too many of your own sensors to confirm him, and you've just told him exactly where you are. Every second is a trade. Speed against certainty. Silence against awareness. There's no free move on that board, which is exactly why the next piece is everything. Once the fleet trusts the track, it has to move it off one ship's screen and onto everyone's. That's the job of a system called Cooperative Engagement Capability. NAVSEA describes CEC as a network that vacuums up radar and sensor data from across the entire force and fuses it into a single shared picture, so ships and aircraft fight from the same plot instead of a dozen separate lonely screens. It doesn't mean every platform sees everything perfectly. It means the force can pool what each sensor has, shrink the guesswork, and hand the shot to whoever is best placed to take it. And that quietly breaks the oldest assumption in a sea fight. The destroyer doesn't have to be the one that found the target. The Hawkeye that found it doesn't have to fire a single weapon. The Triton circling at 50,000 feet, a full day on station, never has to come within 200 miles of the enemy. The submarine never has to surface. A silent, passive receiver matters because it confirms what an active radar only suspected. The weapon stops being the missile. The weapon becomes the network that puts the missile in the right patch of ocean. And this isn't a theory on a slide. The Navy has already pulled it off, and not once. In 2016, the cruiser USS Princeton fired a standard missile and destroyed a target that was over the horizon, completely out of sight of the crew on deck, using targeting data handed to it from an aircraft across the network. The Navy called it the longest-range air intercept in its history, and it was the 10th straight time the fleet had done an engage on remote, putting a missile into something the firing ship's own radar couldn't even see. Hitting what the shooter can't see isn't an experiment anymore. It's a procedure, and that's the trap for the ship on the other end. It can sit outside the destroyer's radar horizon and still be inside the fleet's awareness. It can fail to detect the aircraft feeding its position into the net, while its own track moves through that net anyway. It can decide the nearest American ship is too far away to matter and be exactly right, because the ship about to fire was never the nearest one. So now the commander finally has to shoot. The track is good. The target's inside a weapon's reach. The only question left is which weapon, from which platform, by what route. And the menu has gotten a lot longer and a lot quieter. Start with the Naval strike missile, the weapon that opened this video. It's low, stealthy, and mean. It skims just over the wave tops to stay under enemy radar, jinks and maneuvers on the way in to throw off defenses, and reaches out past 100 nautical miles. For years, it lived almost entirely on small littoral combat ships. Then, in 2024, the Navy stripped the old harpoon launchers off a full destroyer, the Fitzgerald, bolted on an over-the-horizon launcher in a record 9 months, and fired one at that decommissioned hull 50 miles past the horizon. The missile flew out, searched the empty ocean on its own, found the target, and sank it. One shot, and the geometry changed. A destroyer that used to lean on its vertical cells for air defense suddenly had a quiet new way to reach out and kill a surface ship it couldn't see. The day after, a B-2 stealth bomber, a plane built to flatten targets from the other side of the planet, flew over the same range and put a cheap, GPS-guided bomb straight through a retired assault ship the size of a small aircraft carrier. A bomber killing a warship. There's no longer anywhere safe to hide. Then there's Tomahawk, For most of its life, it was a land attack weapon, the thing you launch at a bunker 1,000 miles inland. But the Navy has quietly brought back something it gave up in the 1990s, the anti-ship Tomahawk, the Block 50 maritime strike variant, a roughly 1,000-mile cruise missile with a new seeker built to hunt moving ships and a two-way link to retarget it mid-flight. And this stopped being a brochure promise. In early 2026, imagery from a strike in the Middle East showed an American destroyer firing what looked like that exact variant. The ship-killing Tomahawk is back, and it's already been off the rail in anger. Stack all of that on one map, and the enemy's problem multiplies past solving. He has to worry about the warship he can see, and the submarine he can't hear, and the bomber he can't reach, and a sensor track he has no way to erase. That's the entire point of spreading the shooters out. He can't tell which contact is a sensor, which is a shooter, and which is both, until something is already inbound. But here's what the briefing slides leave out. Pulling the trigger is the middle of the problem, not the end of it. A warship is not a building, it moves. And these missiles are not bullets. Most of them are subsonic, grinding across the ocean at a few hundred miles an hour. Fire one at a target 100 miles out, and it can spend 15 minutes in the air. In 15 minutes, a warship doing 30 knots can be miles from where it started. So the missile isn't really chasing a ship. It's chasing a growing circle of ocean where the ship could be by the time it arrives. The longer the flight, the bigger the circle, which is why the network can't just fire and forget. It has to keep feeding the missile updates the whole way in, narrowing that circle in real time, steering the weapon toward the shrinking patch where the target actually is, right up until the missile's own seeker is close enough to take over and finish the hunt itself. And that's why range, set on its own, is a lie. A long shot is not a good shot. Range plus a living track is a good shot. Let the track go stale, and the missile arrives at empty water where the ship used to be. Get the identification wrong, and it sprints after the wrong hull. Let the enemy jam the link or force your sensor to break contact, and the whole engagement comes apart in mid-air, 100 miles from anyone who could fix it. And then comes the part that is genuinely terrible to be on the wrong end of. The missile has run most of its route in silence. The crew it's hunting may know an attack is possible. Then the seeker switches on, and everything they've been dreading collapses into a handful of seconds. Now flip the board, because the target gets a vote. No serious Navy sits still for any of this. The side being hunted attacks the chain at every link. Shoot down the drones, jam the patrol planes and shove them back. Threaten the Hawkeye's airspace with fighters and long-range missiles. Hit the data links with cyber and electronic attack. Flood the sea with decoys and false emissions. Hide in merchant traffic. Lean on the islands and the weather. Split the formation. Go silent. Move in ways that never quite make a pattern. That's exactly why the Navy refuses to lean on one golden sensor. One golden sensor is one thing to kill. A chain built with overlap isn't. Push the Triton back, and a passive receiver still listens. Jam one link and the commander routes around it. Expose one shooter and another takes the shot. And here's the part that should genuinely keep you up at night. The other side is building the exact same machine. The Pentagon's December 2025 report on the Chinese military says it flat out. The PLA is pouring money into reconnaissance, surveillance, and command systems for one specific purpose: to provide over-the-horizon targeting for its own surface ships and submarines. The same separation of sensor and shooter, the same network logic. China already fields long-range radars that can reach past the first island chain and watch ships far out to sea. An anti-ship ballistic missile now assessed as operational, and a strike reached the report estimates at 1,500, even 2,000 nautical miles from its coast. The Navy's whole problem handed back to it at scale. And one detail in that report reframes this entire video. The Pentagon assesses China may be building a missile launcher that fits inside a standard shipping container, which means an anti-ship missile could be hidden aboard an ordinary commercial freighter. Every beat of this story has used civilian traffic as the cover the target hides behind. Now, the merchant ship in the next shipping lane might not be cover at all. It might be the shooter. And none of this is academic. There's a clock on it. That's the scenario all of this is built for. And in that fight, the American commander's question gets sharper than, is that a warship? It becomes, what does that warship do for the enemy? If it's a scout, killing it rips a hole in his targeting network. If it's a relay, killing it forces his data down a slower path. If it's a shooter, killing it pulls missiles out of the salvo. If it's bait, exposing it lights up the rest of his formation. Which is the twist under the whole thing. Sinking the ship is sometimes not even the goal. Sometimes the goal is to blind him, to tear a piece out of his kill chain before he can close it on something of yours, like a carrier with 5,000 people aboard. Over-the-horizon warfare is offense and defense in the same motion. You're not only trying to sink his ship, you're trying to stop his ship from helping sink yours. Now back to those final seconds, after the seeker wakes up. By then, the ship on the receiving end has, in practical terms, already lost, and not because the crew did anything wrong. The problem is that it can't know which part of the network already has it, and every option left is a trade with a downside. Radiate, and it confirms its own position. Go silent, and it goes blind. Sprint, and it makes a pattern. Hide in traffic, and it slows down and boxes in its own weapons. Turn away, and it abandons the mission. Keep pressing, and it sails deeper into the firing solution. There was never a clean move on the board. Then the warning comes. A radar return skimming low over the water, an electronic support hit, a lookout's call that lands a half-second too late to matter. The combat system flips from search to survival. Surface-to-air missiles leave the cells. Chaff blooms into the night. Electronic warfare reaches out to drag the seeker off course. The ship heels hard over to throw the threat into a better arc. In the compartments, sailors brace. On the bridge, officers try to read whether this is one missile or several, or the leading edge of a coordinated strike. The missile doesn't care that the ship that fired it never saw the target. It only cares that the chain delivered it to the right water. That's the modern surface fight in one line. The human eye is out of the loop long before the weapon arrives. There's one hard truth under all of this, and the slide briefings leave it out. Over-the-horizon warfare is fragile. It's beautiful on a PowerPoint and a mess in a real fight. Weather degrades the sensors. Jamming breaks the links. Commanders hesitate. Targets move. Decoys work, missiles fail, satellites aren't always overhead, drones get shot down, aircraft get pushed back. A submarine can know exactly where the enemy is and not be able to say so without giving itself away. So the Navy can't bet everything on one perfect long-range shot. It has to build pressure instead. Find the target, make it maneuver, force it to radiate. Push it out of useful geometry, kill the scouts around it, jam its links, threaten it from 3 directions at once, and then shoot. Not when the map looks convenient, but when the target has run clean out of good options. The best over-the-horizon shot isn't really a missile fired from far away. It's the last move in a sequence that already trapped the ship. Which is why the title of this was never really about blindness. The Navy isn't blind. The shooter is blind. The force is not. The captain on the other end may never get a single contact on his own radar. He may never lift his binoculars and find the enemy hull. But the fleet can still build his position, keep it alive, hand it to a weapon, and turn an unseen ship into a sinking one. That's the whole difference between a platform and a system. A platform fights what it can see. A system fights what it can know. And when the missile finally crosses the horizon, the captain understands the trap he was already in. He was never hiding from a destroyer. He was hiding from a network, and the network saw enough.